Hello everybody. A warm welcome to all the audience for the plenary session on making India a global hub for security R&D and product entrepreneurship. We have with us Professor V. Kamakoti. He is professor at the Department of Computer Science, IIT Madras. In January this year, Professor Kamakoti was selected for the Abdul Kalam Technology Innovation National Fellowship, and in February last year, he was conferred with the Techno Visionary Award by ISEA. He has 44 journal publications and 67 conference papers. Welcome, sir, to the panel. Next, we have Ms. Jilmil Kocher on the panel. She is the Managing Director of CrowdStrike India. CrowdStrike is the leader in cloud-delivered next-generation endpoint protection. They have revolutionized endpoint protection by being the first and only company to unify next-generation antivirus, endpoint detection and response, and a 24 by 7 managed hunting service, all delivered via a single lightweight agent. Ms. Kocher is also a mentor at Women in Cybersecurity. Women in Cybersecurity is an open network supported by ISSA India with national reach dedicated to bringing together women in cybersecurity from academia, research, and industry to share knowledge. Welcome, Ms. Kocher, to the panel. Next, we have Mr. Vikram Gupta, who is founder and managing partner at Ivy Cap Ventures. He has over 22 years of experience in private equity, business consulting, merger and acquisition, strategy and operations in healthcare and life sciences, education, consumer goods, and other industries. He has held various leadership positions across well-known companies in India and abroad. Prior to founding IVCAP, Mr. Gupta was the founding member at a USD 100 million healthcare-focused private equity fund that he conceptualized and raised in 2008 when the world markets were going through the turmoil. Welcome, Mr. Vikram, to the panel. And finally, the session will be moderated by Ms. Rama Vedashri, who is the CEO of Data Security Council of India. She has a rich and varied experience of over 30 years in the industry. She has had long stints at NIT Technologies, Microsoft, and General Electric. Her previous roles include that of Director in Microsoft Global Services and Vice President, GE India. Welcome, ma'am, to the panel, and over to you.
Thank you, Anand. Thanks for the wonderful introduction of the panelists. It's always a pleasure to talk to senior industry colleagues and investors like Vikram. But of course, having Professor Kamakoti in my panel, I particularly feel privileged to have a very senior academician on this particular panel. We have a global R&D head out of India and a global investor, and of course, an academician with a lot of research work going on, also currently working with government and with national security on a lot of critical advisory projects. So it's my pleasure to have this panel around. As everybody in the audience knows, India, NASSCOM and DSCI together have been pursuing this mission to make India a global hub for cybersecurity and grow the industry to $35 billion by 2025. And when we talk about that, there are several constituents of the industry ecosystem that need to have a vibrant growth. One is attracting global corporations to choose India as a destination for their product development R&D. Second, have our Indian services majors, which are already global players in digital technology services across the world, to become major services players in cybersecurity. Then growing the startup and the product ecosystem in India. All of them will depend on a lot of deep tech talent development, a lot of PhDs and MTechs and BTechs coming out of academic institutions, and finally making a partnership between government, industry, and academia. When we started with this mission in around 2015-16 timeframe, and when we visited some well-known global hubs in cybersecurity, whether it is in Israel, whether it's in Hague Security Delta, whether it's in UK, and of course several examples in US, wherever we have seen where cutting-edge innovation and R&D has happened, it was always a collaboration between defense, national security institutions, large businesses and enterprises like global technology companies, and creating a very vibrant innovation ecosystem like startups, and of course, collaboration with academic researchers. Today's session, particularly this day long conference that our National Center of Excellence has curated over the last 2 3 months, is about brainstorming on how can we make India a cybersecurity R&D hub, and how can we get public sector research labs, academia, and the industry ecosystem to collaborate, and then how can we make the R&D ecosystem really grow and become a lot more dynamic, address some futuristic use cases, come up with new products. Be India starts becoming an IP and a patent hub in cybersecurity, both in academia and in the industry. That is the objective. So, as opening remarks, before we get into specific facets of this theme, I would like each one of you to comment on what, in your opinion, from your ecosystem, whether it's academia, investor community, or the technology industry that Jilmil represents, and global technology industry that she represents, what does it take and what are the imperatives to make India a real hub for security R&D? Professor Kamakoti.
Thank you. Uh, so I'm very happy that I'm invited for this panel, and this is a very important time, especially when we are seeing a sudden growth in the digital technology, and there is also a sudden increase in the usage of this digital technology. It is not that the technology has come and we are trying to adopt it; rather, the pandemic has forced us to adopt it. And we also see that it is not that the security that we are talking of is not just for the the strategic sector. Today, if a particular network is compromised, I think millions of people get affected. Their job, their livelihoods can get affected because of the pandemic. The dependency on these electronic media has increased significantly. And that is precisely where there is a big, on the positive side, there is a very big market. There's a very big need and a market to develop cybersecurity solutions. And many of the research that we have done in the past, many of the products that have been developed are now going to see a light in terms of deployment. So today, when we look at the country as a whole, we have 6 critical sectors actually identified by the government itself. The National Council for Information Infrastructure Protection, NCIAPC, has categorized the entire IT infrastructure for the country into 6 critical sectors. We have the power, we have the banking, financial, we have transportation and government and public utility services, etc. And each sector needs a different class of cybersecurity experts. Cybersecurity experts who can basically develop products to ensure security there. Then there are cybersecurity experts who are needed to conduct forensics if there is something wrong. There is a need for cybersecurity experts who can basically make policies and specifically with respect to data leakage and certain denial of service in each of these sectors. And there are different levels of cybersecurity expertness also that is needed. So there is a very big need for a capacity building on cybersecurity expertise, and that itself is going to be a very big market. And down the line, the need for such professionals is going to be there'll be a tremendous need for this, and that compounded with a complete ever-changing levels of attacks that are happening today. I think that is going to be a biggest challenge that any nation will be facing, and we need to start becoming proactive rather than reactive, and developing certain products that will be fundamental in nature, which will have more strength or root of trust, and who can give us more strength in terms of addressing the ever-changing spectrum of attacks. That sort of frameworks are necessary today. And if there is in the next round, I will talk about some such frameworks. And these are going to be an ever-growing market. From the government end, there is the Information Security Education Awareness Program that has been mooted some 12 years before. We had seen this. It is in its third phase. And there is a lot of curriculum that has been developed around that. There are a lot of study materials and case studies that have come, and lot of training that has happened both to the industry and this. So we have now an ecosystem to do this. And this ecosystem, along with industry and academia participation, can basically lead to a much more secure nation. So these are all some of my initial remarks, and I will keep the other things for my second row. Thank you very much, madam. Madam, you are muted.
Jilmal, as a global product R&D company, what is the global trends that you are seeing on as you plan out your future R&D roadmap? And what does India have to do to really attract more players like you and to retain players like you so that India really becomes not just growing the innovation ecosystem in India, but also become a destination for the world?
Right. So as we know, the professional, the criminals and the state-sponsored saboteurs pose a very, very serious threat in the cyberspace. So the cyber attackers are not only technically advanced, they are highly motivated and very, very well funded, right? So their attacks pose a threat to even our country's national initiatives like the smart cities or e-governance, the government, military, and other enterprises and businesses. Also remember that India being a preferred outsourcing destination for IT and BPO services requires a very, very focused and continued attention on security as well as privacy. From a pure India perspective, in order to really have a cybersecurity R&D roadmap for our country, it requires all of our stakeholders, the government, industry, and academia to have to come in together. So I see two major things that really needs to be done. Firstly is building, or rather three major things. Firstly is to create the awareness, as Professor said. Awareness and lack of knowledge about cybersecurity is, prevalent throughout the country. I mean, you mentioned about, we have the Premier Institute showcasing their cybersecurity products out there. But what about the tier 3 and tier 4 institutes and the tier 2 institutes? Where are they in that spectrum? So creating that awareness. The second part is the building the talent, having the talent, building the talent, creating the skills, and then ensuring that the talent remains in the country by providing the right kind of opportunities. And that's what CrowdStrike is trying to do by providing the opportunities for core R&D as well as core product development right here in India. If more and more companies are doing that, then the kind of it's not only helps to boost the overall industry, it also helps to grow the talent pool. They have the opportunities right here in the country. And the fact is that they really need to nurture, they need to think in terms of the long term, what we are doing today, how do we really grow it further, doing core fundamental research, which is very, very niche for this in this area and very much required for the country. And of course, I think we also need a lot of increased government funded research and a public private coordination, in the all of these expanding areas, we talk of the architecture in terms of cybersecurity, big data, privacy, risk management, all of these areas, which are growing areas of concern, where a lot of research is already happening in the global space. We need to start having the fundamental research done in India on those areas.
Okay, thank you. So you brought out the concept of talent being very important. It still resonates with what even Dr. Professor. But look at what is the future roadmap. Vikram, as a global investor, I'm sure you talk to your peers in all parts of the world. You look at other sectors as you start evaluating your own investment priorities. What do you think needs to be done to make India a global hub for cyber? And do you have any specific inputs for what industry ecosystem should do, what academia should do, and of course, from government?
Yeah, I think as Professor Kamakoti and Jilmil talked about the key issues and, what we need to look at. I look at it from the perspective of the big gap, in terms of the investments required in the area. If you look at the global, the cost of cybercrime, and I think there are various numbers and various ways to arrive at these numbers, and people talk about almost about $1 trillion annually are lost because of cyber crimes. And the problem is that, unfortunately, majority of the times people realize it, once the crime has happened, and then they try to find solutions. While in the developed world, people look at more from a preventive perspective as compared to curative, and therefore people are willing to make investments even before things go bad. But as Jilmil said, I think the cyber attackers are actually well funded. They're one step ahead, and they're always looking for more creative ways to create these attacks. And therefore, the level of investment required is actually much higher than one could anticipate. From India's perspective, I think there is a big gap, with the level of digitization which is happening and the level of investments which are going into building the technology infrastructure, penetration of technology into tier 2, tier 3 towns, even in rural areas. With what's happened recently with Jio, with the almost $21 billion that they've raised. I think, while that's all very positive in terms of really accelerating the growth of digital penetration in India, I think the challenges that are going to come along with that on the cybersecurity side, I don't think, anybody has yet really thought through that in detail in terms of what kinds of issues that will happen. And I think there is a very serious attention required, and somebody like or something like this, what Rama, what you are doing, and through these kind of forums, I think at least we can create that awareness and get the right agencies involved to really encourage people to build investment pools to really address these problems. And I think at the institution levels, like at IIT Madras, at IIT Delhi, and other IITs, I think there is an opportunity to create specific targeted projects, and with the allocation of funding which is allocated for these areas. And I think of course there's an opportunity for the government as well to really also, not just from encouraging the investments in this space perspective, but also in terms of the policy making to encourage corporates and other participants to direct investments into this sector. I think all that needs to come together for us to be able to really address this issue at large. And of course, on top of that, you need a lot of collaborations, and it's very encouraging to see Jilmil actually, running this global organization in India. It really talks about the potential that the global organizations see in India in terms of the talent availability. And I think things like these should happen more, and a lot more global organizations can, come and partner with either Indian, academia or R&D institutions, or even set up on their own. And I think that would definitely, help at least address part of the problem. We as investors, as venture capital investors, look at the space, for venture capital investing. So we have invested in cybersecurity startups. Most of the startups in this area are very early stages right now, but a very high level of funding is required. In fact, I believe, dedicated funds can be set up for cybersecurity given the size of the opportunity and the challenge we're looking at here.
Professor Kamakoti, can we have you back?
Yes. Hello.
So, our next round, I just wanted, there's so many new areas or domains where I think India really needs to step up not only it's talent development, but it is security R&D. New startups have to come in that domain. Maybe new public sector or academic research needs to happen, whether we talk of 5G or we talk of IoT, or even in the overall area of the digital payment stack, there is so much that is happening, right? And where you look at the scale at which smart cities are likely to get scaled up, right? So in all these new technology, areas where cybersecurity research and product development needs to be really accelerated, what do you think are the key priorities for the country, both from an academia perspective and industry? And then what is the enablers we need from government? If we can look at that, Professor.
Exactly. So thank you very much for setting up this question, and I think it's a very important question. Today, see, rules and regulations from different point of view, because there is a cyber security policy that is coming up, which is coordinated by the National Security Council. There is a draft policy that was also discussed with the industry and industry participation that is coming up. And on the other hand, there is a Justice Sri Krishna Commission, which has actually bring out data protection rules. But all these are like dams, right? You have to fill good water into it. And the good water into it basically comes only if there is a cyber hygiene that is practiced by the end user, right? So, for example, if so that is where, as Ms. Kochar also mentioned, this awareness becomes extremely important, and that we are doing it in a very big way. But then there are many challenges that are coming up today in terms of our the different types of software environment that are put in place, and the complex relationship between this different software and hardware environments, which actually creates a sort of a sort of bottleneck in continuously upgrading your software to meet the different cybersecurity requirements. For example, I have a development that I'm doing, and I'm stuck to some version of the operating system. Now that version of the operating system has some issues. Now I cannot upgrade, and so there is a fix released by the OEM, and I cannot go and fix it because my software is dependent on the previous version. So these type of patching and upgradation issues are also coming up in a big way. So overall, the biggest trend today is that we need to start investing in bringing up certain robust infrastructure where we can be very proactive. One such example is today, we need to sort of, suppose I have a router, right? All these cyber attacks are going to be network driven. So I need to have a way by which I put a passive element in this route and establish a completely logically isolated network which can basically log all my traffic, right? And start looking at some of the anomalies, and this can be done at an organizational level. This cannot be done at a national level because there will be other privacy and other sort of other concerns that come. But as an organization, any IT-driven organization should start building this isolated monitoring, infrastructure, wherein there is an a business driven by IT that is running, but there should be a completely isolated, but at the same time, completely aware of the environment, but at the same time isolated type of an environment, which is going to monitor the entire cyber security aspect of that. So the biggest investment now comes in building up frameworks which can do these type of activities, and that is what we need to basically concentrate upon. That is one part, and the second part is that we need to provide career prospects for people who invest their time on cybersecurity. Today, like for example, an auditor has a very good career path because you have a regulation that if somebody signs on your audit, that they need a CA, right? You need to have a CA or some degree by which you become eligible. Like that, we need to bring in strong eligibility clauses at every sector, saying that if somebody has to be a CISO here, there should be a cyber audit, which is as rigorous as a financial audit. And then somebody who can sign it should have cleared this particular level of certification. And those certification should also become very serious in the sense that it should be very highly competitive, tough, and sort of, only the real daily people can clear. So this level of certification we need to bring in, accreditation type of thing that we need to bring in. And at the same time, there should be a clear-cut rule put by the regulator. Basically, it can be RBI or SEBI or TRAI or whoever, saying that anybody who is going to perform this audit, perform any forensics, they should have this minimum level of accreditation. And if that type of a thing is put, then this becomes a career prospect for someone, and then you get a very thriving field. So if accountancy and chartered accountancy has grown at the pace X, I'm sure if we have a similar setup, this will grow by 2 power x. So that is my overall view. So these are some of the two interesting points that I wanted to tell in my. Thank you very much. You are muted, madam.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. So, Jilmil, in these kind of domains, whether it is IoT, 5G, and the overall, in cloud security, what are those new mission mode R&D projects that you are seeing globally, and which should be taken up by Indian academia or should be taken up by the Indian, product industry ecosystem? What do you think are real core R&D projects or missions that you are seeing in other parts of the world?
So if I look at it globally, so what happens is, if, like, for example, if we look at US has a number of agencies who are currently working on cybersecurity research, looking at promising scientific approaches, the risk assessment of critical infrastructure, the presence of adversaries, and building upon the existing knowledge and maturity models. If you look at Europe, Europe's research focuses primarily on what I spoke about earlier: awareness building, capacity building, and existential threats, like cybercrime and the threat to privacy. So if we look at various countries, there is things happening all out there. In my opinion, there are, four areas of broad areas where, we should be looking at and concentrating from a pure research perspective. One is, gathering the threat intelligence, or, looking at where the adversary is, identifying who the adversary is and what their TTPs are. That cyber intelligence or threat intelligence really can protect nations, can protect your military, can also protect enterprises. The second part is, in the area of managed threat hunting. Now, what happens there is, you can have all kind of defense mechanisms to protect your infrastructure, critical data, and everything. But what happens is, there will always be adversaries who will pass through and who will be inside your enterprise, inside your organization, looking for, waiting to, really make a kill. How do you find that needle in the haystack? And like Professor said, it requires that mindset, that security mindset, that forensic mindset, to be able to find that needle in the haystack and find them before they can actually cause any kind of damage. And the third part is, forensics and incident response, which, is something of a strong growth area. How do you be able to automate a lot of this? Because yes, there are a lot of people, a lot of companies who can do this, but look at the amount of time and the amount of effort it actually takes to get there. But how do you actually build the right tools, and how do you have the strategic advisories which can actually solve these problems and identify root causes in minutes, is again another area of growth and research. And then fundamentally, endpoint protection delivered not through the age-old mechanisms which focused on malware, but looking at the new kind of mechanisms which are like fileless threats. So how do you protect using latest technologies like machine learning? How do you use the latest technologies like IOAs in order to actually protect the boundaries of an enterprise? So these four, in my mind, the threat intelligence, managed hunting, and the incident response and the endpoint protection piece. These are the four pillars around which the entire world of cybersecurity is sitting today. So a lot of research going in this, and we as a country are not strong in a lot of these. We might be doing a lot of smaller. I've seen a lot of startups who are coming up with very, very new and innovative ideas specifically on the endpoint protection side, but people are definitely not looking at the other three, which is a major area of growth.
Thank you, Jilman. Vikram, while you are an investment leader, you engage also with a lot of premier academic institutions and their incubators and the overall startup ecosystem. What do you think in these new disciplines that I was talking about, whether it is 5G or IoT, what do you think we need to do to get this government academia industry? Because there might be research happening in silo somewhere in an IIT Kharagpur or Kanpur or Mumbai or Delhi. Often we don't have visibility. The objective of this conference is to bring that visibility for the broader industry ecosystem. What do you think we need to do so that we shrink this lab to market, and how can we take more new futuristic product ideas into the research phase?
No, that's a very, very important question you ask, Rama. In fact, and I agree with what Jilmil just said in terms of, entrepreneurs focusing on only very specific areas. But I think you're absolutely right that, if you go to IIT Kanpur, for example, and, start looking at what they're doing, it's very interesting. You will find some cybersecurity focused projects happening and startups working there. With very limited funding, they're just trying to do something. And when you go to IIT Madras Research Park, you will see very interesting startups over there, but unaware of what's happening at IIT Kanpur. And the situation is very similar when you go across the ecosystem and you see that there is no collaboration going on. And I think something like this, which is already not an easy area to deal with and which requires a lot of funding, I think one thing at the least that can be done is bring all these together on a single platform so that people can collaborate and they can share their resources and share assets. Definitely something. In fact, we have a platform called Ivy Camp, which actually tries to bring startups in different areas onto a single platform, whether they're different incubators or different accelerators or even startups in certain areas. We run certain programs. We ran cybersecurity program a year ago, and we got very good response. Almost about 300 startups who registered on that, and we saw some very, very interesting projects which were happening. And we realized that there was a lot of potential, but at the same time, there were overlaps, plus there were a few startups which required some substantial funding upfront. Some of them were focused on infrastructure building. Many of them were focused on building this AI machine learning as well. And I think we do see some of these startups even now which are actually quite actively involved in using this latest deep tech technologies. And I really believe that these could be very, very successful, provided they get the right amount of funding upfront and even the follow-on funding. I think one of the things which I've been trying to do myself at IIT Delhi, we've set up this endowment fund on the lines of the US endowment funds in the US universities, and some of these funds are very large in size. For example, Harvard endowment fund is very close to about $40 billion, which deploys the just the returns on that endowment corpus back into various research projects. I think in India we are lacking such endowment corpuses in campuses, and we took that initiative at IIT Delhi last year when we launched $1 billion endowment fund with the objective to really, focus on, over a period of time, build a sustainable innovation programs in campus and do various other things. And I think we are at a point right now in India where there's a lot happening, but I think we need to just bring all that together through common platforms and encourage innovation at the very early stages, and IITs are the best places to encourage such innovation, and corporates like CrowdStrike and quite a few others who are quite focused on building value in this space. I think we can bring them also on the same platform and encourage them to participate either with their intellectual capital or even with some funding. And I think somebody like a DSCI could actually take a lead in encouraging this kind of a collaborative platform, and I think it can go a long way.
Yeah. Thanks, Vikram, for highlighting this $1 billion endowment fund. That was, I think, a very path-breaking initiative. It was a very path-breaking initiative from the investor ecosystem to park it with an academic institution and to funnel innovation. I think we need those kind of endowment funds targeted at cyber all the more now, because I think that's one going to be, if there's anything going to be a showstopper to grow India's digital economy, it would be the cyber risk and nothing else. Because in terms of attention from government, from business, small and medium businesses, startups, I think growing the India's digitization to grow the digital economy is that focus is there in every business leader. It's there in government. I think cyber risk poses to be the biggest challenge. So I just wanted, as a wrap up, one big thing when we look at globally key use cases where research is happening and then products are coming and products, next generation wave of innovation happens on those products, right? Co-creation happens to be a very important theme, where it could be a large user enterprise like a bank partnering with an academia, or it could be partnering with a startup incubator or with a bunch of startups, right? It could be an oil and gas company, it could be a telco, or it could be a military, defense institutions. We are not seeing enough of that co-creation opportunities. I think we have seen quite a few in the fintech area. Fintech, maybe Vikram can corroborate that. We are seeing banks and financial institutions, including organizations like NPCI, partner with startups. But in cybersecurity domain, while I think several large enterprises, other than government and large PSUs, several enterprises have an R&D or an innovation agenda. This co-creation for cybersecurity, where a large corporate from India Inc. or a large PSU in critical information infrastructure like oil and gas is actually nurturing 2-3 startups to come up with products for their own company or their own sector. What do you think we need to do to be able to make that co-creation become a key enabler for R&D in India? Any one of you, including Professor?
Yeah, I would like to, take that up. So I can give you some examples of some of the things which we have been doing in this space. So on a smaller scale, we have come up with a concept of CrowdStrike Scholarship and Foundation. So what that does is basically it has a next gen scholarship program to support the development of next generation of talent and leadership in cybersecurity. And we also fund research to explore new ways to detect, deter, and defeat the dangerous nation state, e-crime actors, and hackers. So that's one part of something, that CrowdStrike does, which I believe a lot of other industries could take up. Second part of co-creation, which we have been trying to do, is being a cloud delivered solution. We have a lot of data available in the cloud. Now we have exposed that data using APIs to multiple companies. So we have partners now coming in and partnering with us through those APIs on offering their independent solutions to the customers that we have. So that not only benefits the customers, it benefits the new companies because they don't have to set up the whole platform. The platform is there. Their unique and niche solutions can be directly applied on the data and can be made available to the customers. We are also offering, investment for, next generation cybersecurity startups. Again, the model is all co-creation. Can you use this data and come up with a brand new, way of protecting the customers? Yes, we will fund you to, make that kind of products happen. So I think there are a lot of initiatives as an industry we could take, and some of it, we are really trying to drive.
So good you brought up that point. We are now seeing a lot of interest. Recently, we have done a startup day with a very large Indian services firm where it's not just the cybersecurity leadership and the CISO's organization, but their strategy and venture arm participated. They evaluated about 12 startups. There, they're looking at can there be an opportunity for first utilizing their products internally, jointly taking them to the market, but actually putting some venture funds so that some new innovation can, some incremental innovation can happen to meet some customer requirements, which could be a global customer requirement. We're beginning to see those examples, but what more do we need to do to drive this co-creation from large national security institutions, oil and gas corporations, or large public sector banks? What do you think we need to do, Vikram or Professor?
Yeah, the main issue here is that um, sector-wise there are certain issues that we need to handle, but then there are certain generic issues that need to also be. So one of the important things that we need to invest now is to build up certain basic frameworks, like the AI ML framework for cybersecurity, then a good blockchain, a implementable blockchain, we should say, because blockchains themselves is currently taking lot amount of computation complexity. So an implementable blockchain that can basically address the log and the forensics and non-tamperability, where it actually becomes a very important, both from a forensic point of view, from a legal point of view. So technologies that can enable these type of mechanisms, right? If I want to actually start doing some anomaly detection or some sort of a massive intrusive analysis of the cyber health or cyber hygiene of the system, there are these basic technologies. I think we have to invest quite significantly on this and get products that would be basic frameworks. Now, these frameworks can be taken up, customized, and used for different sectors. And of course, there will be certain sector-specific requirements. For example, if I take a stock exchange, the intention of an attacker would be to do a denial of service, or there's nothing to steal from it. But if you take a bank, on the other hand, it will be that they would like to withdraw money. So the type of attack vector itself would be different for different segments. In power, it can be a very different, altogether a different ballgame there. So, so many of this have to come up. Many of these basic frameworks have to be in place so that people can quickly build the solutions around them. A better business now is to have certain generic frameworks which you keep selling. It's like, you are making a single tire which can go into multiple cars, right? And a car can be in different shapes. Similarly, these tires, so this is what the investment should be at this point of time. And see, one major mistake that is happening today is that software are created for specific set of attacks, but these attacks don't exist beyond some point of time. So we are still not having a generic approach to this, and that is where the market is going to be, and that is where the need also will be there.
So you are talking about how do we go build products that can be commoditized for different environments. Otherwise, you believe that currently the products are too niche. Particularly, I think
Exactly.
your point is very valid. If you're looking at the overall micro, small SMB environment, they need products which for cybersecurity, which they can consume, but they can also afford. Vikram, any comments from you before we wrap up?
No, yeah, I think this is something you said very interesting. Is basically some of these companies, especially in the fintech space, have started very proactively setting up certain initiatives which are well funded. I've seen a State Bank of India actually allocating 200 crores to begin with into fintech startup investments, and then allocating more money behind that. Bank of Baroda has done something very similar. HDFC Life has actually, in fact, partnered with us to set up a program for InsurTech, working with startups in that space. And I think some of these corporates can actually really take lead. And I think if we can have similar initiatives on the cybersecurity side where, corporates can participate and even, come together, maybe 3-4 corporates can come together. And I think in my view, the ones, who are most likely to get impacted are, the financial services, and also on the healthcare side over a period of time as more and more data penetrates into this, and insurance. These are some of the sectors which will have the highest threat given the volumes of data they would be handling over a period of time. And I think it would be, good for some of these corporates to really, come together and really, create some focused efforts. And that's exactly what we were discussing earlier in terms of have participation from some academia and bring some startups together into that, and focus on very specific programs there. So definitely this is the right time to do it now.
Thank you, Vikram. So what I would say, Vikram, you engage a lot with the corporates, with startups, with academia. I think we need, evangelists like you and your peer investor leaders to start evangelizing cybersecurity as a investment-worthy discipline, because I think we still struggle to get investor attention. A lot of our startups do, but things have changed significantly over the last 3-4 years. I don't think there's any investor VC firm who's not evaluating cybersecurity, but I think we need to do more. And my humble plea to Professor Kamakoti would be, he engages with so many corporates, with national security institutions. I think collaborating with industry, collaborating with startups in a more open mode for R&D projects will make a big way. I think a lot of the young startups, whether it is in the quantum space, crypto, threat intelligence, cloud security, they've come a long way. And I think they're looking to partner more with government and public sector institutions. And Jilmil, my plea to you would be is your entire global security R&D ecosystem. You should evangelize India so that India really becomes a global hub, and very cutting edge niche product development happens out of India. So it's not only you building your products, but it builds that innovation ecosystem in India. So thank you, all of you. I'll hand over to my colleague Anand.
Thank you.
Thanks, ma'am. Thanks to all the panelists for a knowledge-enriching session. With this, we bring the series of panel discussions and individual presentation sessions that we have had throughout the day to its closure. The audience are requested to visit the booths of the exhibitors and explore their cutting-edge R&D work. The exhibition booths are accessible until 6 in the evening. After that, we will
We lost you, Anand.
stay tuned for more of such national level virtual programs in the future. Bye and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you, Anand.